let's talk about this, the NRG thing. Again, we're going to talk about this on the Four Horsemen, so I'm going to go over this briefly. So as Thorin said, the deal with Madison Square Garden was this. So the process here was CLG is acquired by Madison Square Garden because of the hype. CLG was winning inside Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
Madison Square Garden is a company. Madison Square Garden owns the Garden, the stadium. They also own the New York Rangers and the New York Knicks, so the professional sports hockey and basketball teams in New York City and Manhattan. And they were like, ooh, this is cool. You guys sold out a stadium. We're going to buy the team that won, right? So they entered into negotiations with CLG. They purchased CLG. Now, CLG, they were involved obviously in League of Legends. They also had CLG Red, which was the women's like Counter-Strike team. They also had a bunch of Smash players and some other like peripheral players, influencers. They were based out of actually they were like 5 minutes away from my house in Mid-City in Los Angeles, their facility. So they had a whole facility out there. And by the time they had kind of built out this robust coaching structure, they were spending a lot of money is the point. And at the end of the day, they realize, like everyone else is realizing right now, that this is an unsustainable business model. You know, it's funny, Thorin, the professional sports teams who are used to running profitable sports businesses like Golden Guardians and Madison Square Garden are the teams that went out pretty quickly.
Oh, but wait
here.
a minute, Monty. That's weird because I've been told the way that money works in esports goes like this, Monty. If you're really rich and have loads of money, you don't care about wasting money. That's a real thing I've been told about millionaires, billionaires, pro players. Oh, you mean it's the other way around, Monty? And actually the people who really care about the pennies. Wait a minute. You're almost telling me, Monty, it's almost like if you take care of the pennies, you take care of the pounds. So actually not wasting even frivolous amounts of money is how you become rich.
Also, you know, famously Andy Miller, who is the principal owner of NRG, right? He is a partial owner of the Sacramento Kings NBA team and was a former vice president at Apple underneath Steve Jobs. So I mean, he has obviously a lot of money and has had a very successful career, and he's very passionate about gaming and esports. But this is all to say that, you know, when CLG was at the end of their rope, basically, what happened was, as you alluded to, what they did was an equity swap. So MSG had all of these costs that were associated with CLG. And so what they did was they put all of those costs onto NRG. And what they got in exchange was there was no, as I understand, there was no money that changed hands. So NRG didn't pay MSG. What they did was they absorbed all their costs and they gave MSG a equity stake within NRG, right? And you have to remember NRG, they have a bunch of influencers in like Fortnite and Minecraft, I think, and like kids games. And they have this facility called the NRG Castle, which is like a streaming thing in LA. They also own Full Squad Gaming, which is like a TikTok like content creator collective.
It's huge,
so they
have one of those
ones
that has loads of views.
Like millions, like they have millions of followers, I think, on TikTok. So they've been very successful in a lot of these more influencer based businesses. And they have had, you know, a variety of esports teams in the past. They got into esports. They owned the San Francisco Shock, which was the Overwatch League team that was very successful that I worked with in Overwatch League. So they did buy into that franchise as well. So this is all to say they didn't take money. Okay. You know, Overwatch League is no longer there. Their business has value outside of being an esports is my point. And you may not know that. So, but the funny thing about this, guys, is basically the payment for this exit, as I understand it, was larger than previous ones. It was, you know, it was $6 million when we saw teams leave last time. It was in the realm of $8 to $10 million this time that was offered. So it was actually more money. So NRG comes in, they slash costs, like they accidentally kind of win the championship based off of like CLG's, the systems that CLG put in place. So credit to Madison Square Garden. They were actually running a good team, guys. At least from a competitive and like coaching perspective. Now, what NRG did after that win was go to Worlds, you know, make quarters. Then they sacked all their coaches. They drastically reduced costs because the costs at CLG, from what I understand, were outrageous, guys. Like they had, all of these like personal trainers and everything.
Anyone who had those facilities had to be insane anyway. Like those costs were insane in LA.
It was out of control for like all of the services that they were offering the players. So NRG came in and said, this is ridiculous. Like this isn't sustainable. So they cut a lot of those costs. Okay, so now we get to this year. So if you are offered this payment, guys, remember you did an equity swap and you are being offered $8 to $10 million to leave. Okay, so the equation that you're now doing is the equity that I gave up to Madison Square Garden worth more or less than $8 to $10 million? Because you know the stipend's going down, so you might have costs again. So what I think is genius about this entire thing, Thorin, is like, how much, we can guess how much equity they gave to MSG as part of this. I don't know, 20%?
Yeah, something like that.
That's probably pretty high,
yes,
maybe.
Yes.
So the question is 20% of NRG, the brand, worth more or less than $8 to $10 million? And
in theory,
it's worth way more. It's way more.
Yeah.
The answer is it's way more.
Especially because if you don't know, NRG really is like a G2 where they're like them and Team Liquid and Cloud. They can all be here in 20 years, mate. They can be if there ever really is an NFL of esports, they will be the org. So that's also the equity you hold. That's not like my Flashpoint equity, Monty, which spoiler, I may as well even lose that piece of paper at this point in time. You know what I mean? Like it'll never be worth it. That's real equity.
Right. And like, let's put the way that businesses are valued, let's just put this in perspective, right? If there is a valuation, this is just theoretical numbers, guys, right? But if there is a value, if they gave MSG 20% of the company, and we say, let's take the low end, so $8 million is 20%. Okay. Like, even if companies are based off of their revenue, sometimes they're based off potential, like it's all hocus pocus at the end of the day. But a lot of times, you base companies off of their revenue. And let's say you get a very generous, like tech style valuation, which this is basically like the most generous I can be.
It's what they used to do on the Forbes, where they gave the 400 million valuation, which is obviously very, very generous. Let's say.
So like, let's say like we're giving it an 8x revenue multiple, right? And we're saying 20% is worth 8 million, right? Well, their revenue would have to be $5 million a year for that to be relevant, right? For that to be an appropriate valuation. I do not think NRG is doing $5 million in revenue a year, which means that they basically, I think, as I understand it, this effectively turned into a very good fundraising round for them, because now they just got $8 to $10 million at a basically a huge discount to them that they can invest into their influencer or other esports businesses where it'd be more profitable. So I think in actuality, this is actually fucking genius, because effectively they now have a giant pile of cash to reinvest, and it's more money than they would have gotten by directly selling that equity stake or raising money based off of it. So this is all my speculation, guys.
In the meantime, they got to have a team in the league, potentially get sponsors off that, and win the championship. You idiots! And they only won on this. That's why. Not only was it a bad take, but it was the obverse of my other favorite shit take in esports that goes like this, Monty, because it's the same thinking. It's where you don't understand finance and in the game results are different. So the one when someone wins the championship and they're like, well, now that they've won, they'll get all sponsors and they should just like get another stop. It's like, that's not how this works at all. Like, winning in the game never give them 1 cent more. Like, that's how good you are at selling sponsorships, you dickhead. If you're good at selling sponsorships, you can do it as the second place team. You don't have to win. But if you're terrible at selling sponsorships, you can win 1 million championships. You'll never get a sponsor. So that's also one of my favorite things, is people refuse to understand that like the in-game results are irrelevant. Like, because what they're really trying to say is this, if they were actually being honest, Monty, they pretended to know about the finances by seeing the fee that they bought CLG for, which again, we just pointed out, factually, they did not buy CLG. Please learn that, especially because you're all saying they gave him a giant bag of money with a fucking dollar sign. That never happened. But it's even worse than that, because actually in this analogy, you're thinking, but why would you leave after you won the LCS? No, what you need to ask yourself, again, you're right, Monty, is how did Riot fuck up the LCS so much that accidentally tripping over and winning the championship doesn't in any way make you want to stay? Why is that the case, sir? And that's a Riot question, not an NRG question. Because I agree with you. I think NRG is a fantastic org, mate. It's actually not a bad sign to NRG that they're leaving. It's a bad sign for the LCS, mate. When NRG is saying we're hopping ship, that tells you the ship's going down, mate.
Well, and also I think for CLG fans out there, and I know people are upset because it's like, oh, they bought CLG and now they ruined it. It's like, no, Madison. Like, ask yourself the following question: how could a massive business like Madison Square Garden buy CLG, want to run it pretty well, in my opinion, and then because there is no business model because of Riot, they want to get out, and now we have this result? Like, this result is objectively, I think, very good for NRG.
In theory, like I said, Monty, the number one reason that a sports franchise or sports franchise owner should want into the LCS is the belief that one day this will be the NFL of League of Legends.
Yes.
And so what they're doing is charting out early territory, hopefully like the NFL, where, like I say that story every time, we would all go back and tell John Elway, we'll do the crowdfund with you. Let's buy the Broncos now in 1999 or whatever it was. Obviously, it's going to be worth like 10x. Obviously, if you really thought that was possible, you'd never sell. In fact, Monty, it's worse than that. If you actually really thought one day this will make profit, you'd even eat the costs of a few million a year. What this implies to me is there is no roadmap where essentially the people who know the most about owning franchises in sports can ever see a way to get money. That's why Golden Guardians are gone with the Golden State Warriors. Fucking these people are gone now with NRG. And who's left? Like just endemic fuckers like TLC that made their name
nothing else.
Anyway.
Who have nothing else, by the way.
You don't have a reason to leave there. Right now they need to. Like their legacy is in this game, It's a really dark time for LCS, mate.
I mean, I think TL's a little bit different because they have a pretty diversified business at this point, even outside of esports.
Sure.
You know, they have like media creation companies, they have like Wikipedia, you know, but it's like, it's not a good sign that basically everybody who had a diversified business, including TSM, by the way, is out. Right.
Well, it's like I always said, it's obvious though. That's like saying, well, what do you mean? Yeah, you've got a tumor, TSM, but the rest of you is healthy. And they were like, why don't we just cut the tumor off? The esports team and just keep the healthy part of the body.
And by the way, we should also consider the fact that part of this equity swap was probably, you know, part of this was probably that MSG retained got a seat on the board of NRG as a company. So like we should probably assume that MSG agreed with doing this.
Which, by the way, is also why Andy Miller and NRG are geniuses, because that's an example of someone you want on your board, someone who owns real life sports franchises and the biggest arena, most famous arena in America. You want essentially, you're right, Monty. They essentially made it sound like, hey, we're doing a deal. Actually, you're just doing me 50 favors. Like, this is great. I get money, I win the championship, and you're part of my business and care about what I'm doing now. Oh, great. Oh, no, shit. Yes, I'm getting wrecked on this deal. Like, Andy Miller killed it, mate. He killed it.
So anyway, I just thought it was funny. And like, again, I just feel like the Jojo Pian issue, you know, the reason why these things are happening, guys, is because there is no hope for the business of teams in esports. And everybody is finally grokking that reality.
By the way, I've got an angle for you as well, bro. That's really crazy. This just shows no one ever actually cared about what players made in the LCS money. That topic last year was a fake story. Do you know what they actually care about, though, Monty? They care about their favorite players like Doublelift saying, hey, I'm being oppressed. This is wrong, man. And they, hey, well, what's going on here? Doublelift being oppressed. He's only getting paid like $1 million this year. Like, this is outrageous. So here's how I know they don't care about it. Because you know what, Monty? Where was the crazy widespread protests when two teams left the league? Think about it logically, Monty. The second 2 of the 10 franchises leave, automatically everyone's going to make less salary because there's less people to bid for you when your contract is available. So you're all going to make less money. Like I'll just go and say it now, Monty. I'm almost certain some of those dig players will have gotten very low contracts compared to the rest of their career. All of those guys were used to the old C9 and the TL contract. Bro, they'll have been slumming it. I bet it was so bad, Monty. They were almost just like the best LCS casters, only making low 6 figures. That's straight fire the way I did that there. Anyway, but whatever. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. I just can do that. Anyway, no, that's another detail, Monty. Why is everyone cool with that? Why is Riot never to blame, by the way? What I don't get is this. Here's the weirdest detail. What's weird is in CS, we fucking hate Valve, and they made a game we acknowledge we love. You all acknowledge in League you actually hate League of Legends and consider it a form of self-harm that you can't stop playing it after 10 years when some cunt can lock in Yubi and ruin the whole game. But somehow you're letting Riot have a pass every time to just slide on by when they're the ones fucking up. Like, it's actually Riot that's fucking all your pro players and all the teams. And the worst thing, to link it all the way back to the beginning, is I'll tell you what, Monty, wouldn't now be a brilliant time to dip into that non-existent war chest full of all the money they made from the Twitch subs and all the compendiums and, you know, the like $400 million I just said they could have made. Now would be a brilliant time to break that out. Oh, what's that? You just said, apropos of nothing, like some mad cunt. Lol, let's just burn that hypothetical money and just not pick it up for free. Lol, I'm doing it. By the way, nothing has ever aged worse than that spin that, like, we don't charge because we think esports should be free and we want to foot the bill.
Again,
I'm
Thorin,
So dumb.
there's only two options that exist for that, which is basically like they did the math and they realized that it was more profitable to to not do it,
Yes.
which meant that they were making 100% of the money that they spent,
Yep.
that they could have gotten via marketing. So it's either that they were making so much money that they could just hide and
Yes.
keep all to themselves because of esports and like players buying skins that they saw. We already know, they announced it, that three of their top six skins of all time are world skins. By the way, we know
Yes.
that because I don't know why they would say that, but they did. And then, so the jig's kind of up. So it turns out they were actually making a fuck ton of money off of esports, or they're just idiots. I mean, those are the only two options. They're either so stupid, which I don't think is true. I just think they're bad faith actors.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.